Meeting started for Councilor Green. I see Councilor Hogan with me. President Hudson. There's Councilor Green as well. So, Donna, if you want to get started, we'll just get it rolling.
Okay, sure. So we're here for the Personnel Labor Relations budget. Our office has is responsible for supporting all the departments for all employment, administering all the policies and procedures and the hiring process for the city, as well as retirements and civil service. We have from last year, we had requested new positions, went from focusing on having a director and then 3 different areas to focus on. We have the employee relations manager, Margaret Chaika, who is with us today. And she's overseeing all of our labor relations, disciplines, and contracts. And then we have the risk manager position, Joe Gorsuch. We've been working on centralizing workers' compensation and safety in the workplace. And Joe has been a great addition to the team. And then we have our personnel officer, Wendy Murphy, who has joined our team, and she's overseeing all of our employment actions, hiring process. This past year with COVID, we have been had a lot of different things. This was unique to all of us, and there's a lot of policies and procedures, safety and risk in the workplace, things that have kept us on our toes, all while we were centralizing a lot of the processes this year. We still maintained, we have all of our contracts are out as of December 31st, except for crossing guards, which is out June 30th. So we will start negotiating for those contracts. We have now 3 personnel specialist positions. We actually just this week filled our last personnel specialist position. There is a personnel specialist assigned to each department to assist with the centralization of the vacancy process and the hiring process and separations. So our office is moving more from a reactionary to a proactive approach for all of our complaints, and we've had harassment complaints. We have a personnel analyst that we hired that is focused on professional development, and with that, I think that will that's a more proactive approach in training and educating staff, and it gives a little better, hopefully it will be a little better, and we will just be reactionary to issues, but we'll be able to avoid them. So those positions, we also have another personnel analyst that we added that is overseeing more of our contracts and compliance with contracts and managing things in the office, and also doing our billing, PeopleSoft. We had Sharon Perry, who had been a long time administrative assistant in our office, that retired this past year, and this position supports all of those things that she was doing and helps manage our contracts administration. So that speaks to the new position. We have one other new position, sorry. We have one other new position. It's the safety training instructor. We're bringing on a safety training instructor. So we have 2 to support the city. I know we had it in the auditor did an audit on workers' compensation, and workplace safety was one of the areas that we we recognized needed more support, and that was part of our centralization for workplace safety and workers' compensation. Those are cover the new positions. The rest of the positions, I mean, I think you can see from our budget, we actually went from 16 positions last year, although 2 of them were unfunded, to 15 this year. So that was basically our restructuring of our office, and you know, that's where we're at right now.
Any questions from council? Councilor Hogan, I know you always have one.
I was just wondering, Donna, how involved are you in, are you present in all the labor negotiations with all the unions?
So
I mean, you're the head person, you're the old personnel director,
correct.
basically, situation.
I am. I'm usually there. Corey Dunham is the one that's usually leading the negotiations. But between Corey, myself, and Margaret, right, Margaret and I
Okay.
would both be at those.
Now, let me ask you this. I mean, I noticed that there's $75,000 for other services in your line.
I'm sorry, what line are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at the professional services line. It's proposed for it's adopted in 21 with $75,000, and then $43,000 proposed for 22.
Correct. So
Go on.
So there are two things we are trying to have. We're going to be RFPing for HR consulting to assist when we have excess complaints that, I mean, right now we have Bianca Tierney, who is our diversity specialist, and myself or Margaret if we needed to do an investigation, and Bob Laporte does our workplace violence investigations. So there are times where we need to contract out for investigations, and that's part of those professional services.
And Donna, how long have you been? I know you've been with the department for a while, but I mean, how long have you been the top person?
So I was acting after Bob Stamey left.
Okay.
And I was officially appointed last year.
And in your time there, how long have you when's the last time we had, didn't we used to have legal counsel involved in all the labor negotiations? Or do we have legal counsel? I mean, not our people, but somebody from outside services?
Sure. Yes. It's either been Bond, Shanick & King, or we have a labor attorney, which last year Amanda Harrington was the attorney for our negotiations. She's now with specifically with police and fire, and a new labor attorney is onboarding. Her first day will be May 17th.
So they've been on every one of the negotiations there. So where do their professional services come out of? I mean, where does that, what account is that charged to?
So law has their own budget for that stuff.
Okay, so that isn't charged to personnel or labor negotiations.
Right.
We're paying for them, obviously. I just was wondering what department they came
Yes,
out
that does not, that would come out of law.
Okay. Well, so that's what I wanted to get at. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Other questions from councilors?
I would just clarify one thing on the head count that Donna said. By my reconciliation, there were 15 positions last year, but 2 of those were unfunded. And then there's some amount of movement, so creating and deleting of positions. And then there's 2 new positions this year. So the actual head count is 15 and 15. But last year, there were two that didn't have any dollars. So that's kind of my, just for clarity.
Councilor Green, could I ask one more question?
Go ahead, Counselor.
Donna, you don't have any official person who checks residency at all, do you, for city employees?
So we do residency investigations and reviews. So if there is someone that, I mean, we do pursue if we have complaints or if there's something that is brought to our attention. Every year we do a certification for residency that every employee needs to fill out. And then this year we added to the responsibility for the residency. Every department has a residency monitor that was required to check that the address on record in AS400 matches what the certification form said and that it was within the city. So if there are discrepancies, we do have someone here that does do, we look into the residency right now. It's one of our personnel analysts, and Margaret is also, she would be the one that would oversee those
But I mean,
investigations.
this isn't when you say an investigation, this is like a person doesn't go out like Sam Spade and check to see if
No,
somebody lives
we don't
somewhere,
have
right?
any, correct. We do not
But
have anyone that does.
and that's another antique sort of reference that I come up with. That was a, Raymond Chandler detective. It could have been Dashiell Hamlet too, but so that's okay.
We do
Go on,
not
Donna.
have anyone we don't have a private eye. We don't have a investigator position to tail anyone at this point.
So the investigation is basically if the department monitor, and I remember we had a guy who was a department monitor in the Parks Department. He just, it's somebody you work with every day, and you say you live there, and they say okay, and they sign for it basically.
Right there, that's for the certification form. But if we have a complaint or an issue, we send a letter specifically to that employee asking that they supply us with documentation. So we've had several that we've had people supply us with. There's a whole list of things. It can be a copy of a lease. It can be bills that are in your name for that house. So there are things that we do ask for when we do a review and an investigation. We check, we've checked the voting, where they're registered to vote or if they're registered to vote. There are a lot of different things that we do check on. But we have had residency grievances, and it went to arbitration. And we lost that case because even though we said that the person was lying, the arbitrator decision was that there was no proof of who was lying. So.
Okay. So do you check to see if they claim a star somewhere else?
Yes, we checked that as well.
Oh, good, excellent. So you have somewhat of it. You check somewhat. Okay, thank you.
Definitely do what we can to, to meet those requirements. And
I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying that that's, there, as far as checking for residency, it's, we depend on people self-identifying basically where they live.
right. And I would check that and see if there's.
Yeah, I'm not in any way casting any kind of aspersions on your department at all. I'm just, we've been through this for many years.
You are correct.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you,
You're
Council.
welcome.
Thank you. Other questions from councilors? Okay. All right.
Just a quick one, Councilor Green. So
ahead.
Donna, I know that we've had a couple come through our office for waivers. So when we have employees that have sat in these jobs for years and then it's figured out that they are not city residencies, are those waivers generated through your office or who are they generated through?
So if the council approves a waiver, is that the question, President
No,
Hudson?
not if we approve it, because we don't approve waivers for residency, but I'm just saying they come through. Are they generated from personnel that comes to us to approve or not approve?
So there are, if there is something and people have requested a waiver, we would want to know that. We have terminated people in the past for not living in the city. And, as recent as 2 years ago. So if we can show that someone isn't working, isn't living in the city, we would proceed with termination. So that would be the process. We would, if someone requests a waiver, we would want to know from the Common Council that they are declining that request.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from councilors? All right, well, thank you very much, Donna. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret.